Hey, good evening there. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show that's dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. So I'm happy to announce we're starting a new show, which will run bi-weekly for now until I figure out if I can do it weekly, because it requires a bit of listening time, which isn't always something available to me. So this show is going to be called Ben's Album Challenge. This was put forth by a subscriber, a friend of mine from this channel, who said, why don't we do a show where I give you an album and you tell me what you think of it. Basically, that's what it is. So it's kind of a review, but kind of a bit of a challenge to see how I feel about the album in general. That's my understanding of what we're doing here. And what I'll do is I'll kind of giving like I would on a look back, but it'll be a little bit more of a challenge, because with the look backs, generally speaking, I'm a lot more familiar with the albums. They tend to be albums I like, so they're easier for me to do. This could be a bit of a challenge that direction, so we will see what happens, right? So anyways, Ben was kind enough to supply me with the album that he thought I might like, and he was interested in how I would feel about it and get an honest opinion about it. So the album that he gave me was the debut album from Journey, a band that has done large here in North America and has some kind of progressive elements to it. At least the album covers and the song tracks and the titles of the album all lend themselves to that genre, but we all know that most of the stuff that comes from Journey is very, very much pop oriented and mainstream, which is fine. They have some songs that I like quite a bit, Wheel in the Sky being one of them. There's some other stuff too that I like quite a bit, but I don't own any Journey albums, so it's fair enough to say that I'm not really a Journey fan. That's fair enough to say, right? So having said that, this album is different from a lot of those Journey albums. It's their initial sojourn into music, and they chose to proceed on a kind of a progressive element. It's not purely a progressive album, I don't think. It has some jazz fusion-y sounds to it. It's got some blues elements to it, some very blues elements to it, I think. A lot of keyboards, a lot of guitar, and a lot of drums. Heavy on those three, especially on the drums and the guitar, which I have to say, both the drums and the guitar are off the charts here. They're both very good. If you were just listening for drums and guitar, this album would be perfect for a lot of those reasons. However, there's more to music and more to a good album than just really good soloing from both drummers and guitar players, and a little bit from the keyboardist as well. Okay, so before we get going, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on the album. So the album is considered a progressive album, released by Journey as their debut album, featuring 5 members of the group. 1, the main member, and the guy who's still with the band, Neil Scon, is on here as well. So Greg Rowley, I think I got that right, double G on the Greg part. He's the lead vocalist, and he also plays keyboards. His keyboard of choice seems to be the normal Hammond organ, which I'm not a huge fan of. I do like Hammond organ used sporadically. I tend to be more of the Biotron, Mellotron, harpsichord stuff that the British use. Okay, so Neil Scon, who plays all the lead guitar bits here, and he's off the charts, and does vocals, backing vocals as well. Greg Tickner, who's a rhythm guitarist. It's not common to see a rhythm guitarist with a prog band. That's why even this album, which is Journey's sojourning into prog and their beginning, It's not a wholly progressive album, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Okay, and then they have Ross Valori, bass, piano, and vocals. He does a really good job on the piano part. That's one of the parts of the album I like quite a bit. His bass is a bit backgroundish, so you don't hear a lot of it. I'm sure it's quite good, but it's just not prominent. This is a drum and guitar dominated album. And then of course you have Ainsley Dunbar, who is right off the charts here drumming. I knew he was a good drummer. I had heard some of his stuff from various other stuff. However, I had no idea he was this good. So that part of it I'm sold on. He's a great drummer, this guy. Okay, so that gives you the kind of the personnel of the album. I had to write it down because this is the one thing that I may or may not have a prop for. I actually was out shopping for albums today and thought to get the album, but I couldn't find it anywhere, so I'm going without the prop because I don't have the album. Okay, so the next thing is, since this is the inaugural episode of Ben's album challenge, this will be number 1. So there are 7 tracks on this album. So my overall feeling about the album is that it's probably mostly prog. It has some hard rock elements to it as well. There is a few southern inflections here, like southern rock inflections. I hear that on a couple of tracks. And some jazz fusioning on some of the other tracks too. So you got a little bit of all of this. I don't find it to be a pop album, so unlike the Journey that most people have come to know, it's very poppy. So if you're listening to this thinking, oh, it's a Journey album I don't own, I really like these albums with Steve Perry and all of the really poppy stuff, you're not going to get that here. So I'm going to tell you right up front, you're not going to find that here at all. There's nothing like that on this album. Okay, so like I said, it has 7 tracks. Those are my general feelings of the album. It starts out with a track called Of a Lifetime. This is my favorite track on the album. It's actually not even close. The rest of the tracks I find to be somewhat mediocre or subpar in some ways. But this track definitely, if the whole album sounded like this track, my whole feeling towards it might be totally different. Because I really like this track a lot, and I was asked by Ben to not only give an honest appraisal of the album and tell me what I think, but also to tell me which song I like the best. So for Ben, if you're listening, this is the track I like the most, Of a Lifetime. It's a very cohesive track. It goes from one part to the next, and it flows very nicely. It's a nice build-up. There are some good guitar and drums on here, as there is on every song, but they fit in nicely with the flow of the song. It has a very progressive sound to it. I get a classical feel from it as well. So for me, because I tend to lean toward the British progressive rock, the British progressive rock tends to come from a classical source. Not that it's classical music, it isn't, but they tend to come from that source of when they're building the song, they tend to build it from that source. Not so much with American progressive rock, and Journey follows the American progressive rock theme fairly straightforwardly. Kansas, ELO, Styx, all of them are pretty much the same. They come from a more bluesy, jazz fusion-y element, so there's a little bit more jazz and blues in the formation of their progressive rock, as that isn't prominent in the British music. It comes from a classical source. Hence the reason why I probably prefer progressive rock from the British over any other group, because they tend to come from a source that I feel more comfortable with. I'm not as comfortable with the jazz or the blues element for the progressive rock. So anyways, I wanted to explain my understanding of the album so that people don't think that, oh, I just don't understand it. No, I get it. I get what they're coming from, and it's good for what they're coming from, but it just isn't something I would listen to. Okay, so that first track, I like it a lot. Definitely, for me, it's easily the best track on the album. The next song, In the Morning, a lot of Hammond keyboards on this, and it tends to be a bit more, not a ton more, but a bit more jammy. That's the word I'm looking for, if that's a word. I don't even know. The musicians are kind of jamming with each other. I don't like it as much, but it's okay. It's not a bad song. I definitely would never turn the album off when this was on. It's just it's a pretty okay song. Then we get to the third track. Now it's taking a bit of a dip here. This is an instrumental. It's a typical American progressive rock. It starts out musically and then just it goes off into different directions, and there's a lot of soloing here, both from the drummer and the guitar player, and they're both awesome. They're way off the charts on this particular track here. Just great guitar, great drum play, but it's not, to me, it's not really a cohesive song. It doesn't have that smooth cohesiveness that goes and flows. It's just basically an instrumental that's just a bunch of jams thrown together. That's my feeling about it. The title of the track is called Cahotic. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, please correct me. I'm not familiar with this album, or wasn't, and I don't know this song. I'd never heard it before. I listened to just so people know, I listened to it 3 times, twice as background, 4 times, sorry. Twice as background. Once I kind of listened to it with the headphones, and then once I sat and actually listened to it fully. That's pretty normal for me. Sometimes I take a second listen to it fully just to make sure I'm right, but I felt pretty comfortable with what I heard. So yeah, I give this song a little bit less than the predecessor. So far it's kind of sloped down a bit. Then you get to play some music, which is the next track. This is the one that has the kind of a southern element to it. I get a feel for southern rock element here, even though the vocals aren't really that southern rock sound. Actually, I don't think the vocals are really a progressive rock sound too. He's a pretty good vocalist. I just don't know where he would fit in here. I don't see him being maybe the kind of vocalist they need for what they're trying to produce here. He's not bad though. I don't want to give you the impression I don't like the guy. Lots of keyboards on this song. Again, it's Hammond organ. That tends to not sit with me very well. Although it's good, like the keyboard parts are good. I just not crazy about the Hammond organ. Okay, what else we got here? It's basically a soloing jam and some riffing. Pretty dominant guitar and the guitar noises. So yeah, pretty solid jamming type of song. Not terrible. It's not really. I don't really think of this song as a progressive song. I think of it more as a southern rock kind of jamming song. But it's okay for that. If you're taking it at that kind of an element, it's an okay song. Then we come to track number 5, which is another instrumental called Topaz. Okay, so with this song, it starts out really good. I like the sound of it at the beginning. It's very British sounding, coming from a bit of a classical background here, and with the piano and everything going, sounding pretty good at this point. Then in the middle, it goes right up, and heavy riffing and heavy soloing, and lots of heavy soloing and riffing here from both the guitar player and the drummer. Ainsley Dunsbar. They're both off the charts here. It's got a really kind of a jazzy fusion sound here. It's like all that soloing going together, and it's not bad. And then of course this is the song with the best drumming on it, so it's like right off the charts. And then the guitar soloing is like not far behind, and you got lots of keys in this as well. So yeah, it has a real jazz fusion-y sound to it, and it ends pretty much the way it started, which is kind of with the piano and slowing down and softly. So what you got when I'm thinking about the song is you got this kind of nice intro and a nice ending filled with a lot of soloing in the middle. So I don't know if that's even a song, really. I mean, I guess it's cohesive. It doesn't sound stupid or anything like that, but it just, to me, it doesn't strike me as a song. There's no vocals on it either, and I think with an instrumental, and I'm partial to Rush, and they're North American, but they're Canadian North American, a little bit different. If you listen to their instrumentals, they follow a theme, all of them. The solos fit into where the theme puts them in, and that's the way I tend to like my music. I'm not seeing that here. I just see a nice start, lots of jazz fusion-y type soloing, and then a nice finish. So I gave this song, I gave it a 5. So it's okay. It passed, but barely. Then we get to In My Lonely Feeling Conversations. Okay, so basically when I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, the guy's reflecting upon stuff in his life, reflecting on his life in general, and off by himself doing stuff. That's what that leads me to think. But then the song really isn't like that. I guess it is in a way. It isn't really like it, but it's common in bluesy type music for people to be reflecting and feeling down and feeling sorrowful and emotional and that. And yeah, so it captures that. If that's what their intent was, then that's good. That's what it captures, because this is the most bluesy song on the album by a lot. Like, it's not even close. And there's a lot of riffing on this song, like a lot. So it gives you that kind of sad feeling, and if that's what they're trying to capture here, they did an excellent job on it. I don't know if it fits well on a supposedly progressive album, although I never heard them state that they were going to make a progressive rock album. That's just generally what people put this album as. So yeah, so it's a very bluesy, riffy song. It's okay. I don't dislike it. It might be the only track on here that I think doesn't really fit in with the rest of them. That's just my own feeling. Okay, and then we get to the final song, Mystery Mountain. Okay, so this song is bombastic. It's bombastic. The drums and the guitar here are just right off the charts. And, like, it's mind-blowing how good these two guys are together. Just mind-blowing. Like, they could stand up with any combo in rock, I think, guitar and drums wise together, making a solo. Great. It's very dominant on this song. Like, that's basically what this song is a drum and guitar dominated solos. But it's not a bad song. It's not, to me, it's more like a solo. It's not really a song, so to speak, but just like I said, just very dominant, both of them on this particular song. It finishes off the album with that, and this album is dominated from front to back by guitar and drums, as it should be, because those are the two main musicians of dominance on this album, with some keyboards next, and I like the piano as well. So overall, I basically gave that song a 5 too. So we had basically 4 5s and 2 4s, and then the 8 at the beginning. So not a bad album. If you were to take that and divide it by 7, the average is probably somewhere around 5.5 or 6. It's not a bad album. Definitely passes. It's not an album I would, if I buy it, I might listen to it on occasion, but it's not going to become, like, if I was going, I can see this maybe making a high level 3 or a low level 2 with me, which isn't, it's not great, but it's not bad. It's still a 2. A 2 is a 2, right? I don't see it like screaming up the charts and making a 1 or becoming a masterpiece, in my opinion. But a lot of American guys who listen to American progressive rock really like this stuff, as they do Kansas, as they do ELO, as they do Styx, and all those other progressive bands. Toto, I guess, might have some progressive elements in their music as well. I haven't really listened to them fully, but I've heard that. So on the whole, it's a pretty decent album. I have to say that I started out initially with a negative mindset, which probably didn't help me after the first listening. It got better on the second listening. The third listening, I was okay. The last listening, I gave it a full listen to, and I listened to it intently. I wasn't distracted. So when you can get me to do that, because I don't tend to have very good attention span, if you can get me to listen to the whole album, that album isn't that bad. So that's why I'm telling you right now, if you like that American progressive sound, and you're looking for an album and you didn't know that this album existed, or you thought of Journey as being the pop band, that's not the case here. This is a good American progressive rock band album. If that's what you're looking for, this is an album you should buy. If you don't like that progressive rock sound, and for you, if you're like me and I prefer the British coming from the classical bit type progressive sound, you're not going to enjoy this album as much as other people. So at any rate, I hope that Ben, I hope that you liked the assessment here. I tried to be as honest as I could. I tried to assess the album with my limited skills, because I'm not really a musician. I play drums sometimes. I have played guitar. I can play a little bit of keyboards, a little bit of everything. I'm a hack is what I am, basically. But I've listened to music for 50 years, and I know what I like, and I'm getting better at describing it now. So I think what's happened is that I've had all this kind of knowledge about it inside me, but not knowing how to phrase it properly. The show has made me learn to do that, and this is my assessment of the album. So, solid listen to, but not really in my cup of tea as far as albums go. When I have Kansas too, I sometimes throw them on, and I feel the same way about that album, although I think it's a better album than this one. But overall, not a bad album. So there you go. So we will be doing another album. Now, he has given me an album, but I own that album already, so I sent him a message saying I already have it. Do you want to continue with that? I haven't listened to it too much, a couple times. If he wants to continue with that, I'll be doing that album in 2 weeks' time. And if that goes well, if this goes well, and I'm getting a real good feeling about it, this will become a weekly show. But until then, I just want to give myself some time to see if it's going to be able to work that way. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ben's Album Challenge, and please tell me what you liked or didn't like, or what you think or you didn't think of this album, what your assessment would be. That'd be all great. Anybody's assessment helps me to think about things a little bit differently. So please like, subscribe, and have yourself a wonderful Sunday night evening here in North America. And for wherever you are in the rest of the world, enjoy your day. So take care. Prog Monster out.